Hey guys, Brian from Brian Boas here. To breed or not to breed? That is the question I'm exploring with some of my animals right now. And so for today, I thought I would show you a couple Argentine Boas and then discuss some of the considerations I make when I decide whether I'm going to pair up animals for the upcoming breeding season or not. And so, as you know, the breeding season is right around the corner. I'll be pairing up animals in just a few weeks. Got a lot of exciting possibilities for the 2025 breeding season. I have most of it figured out, but I still have a few that I'm not quite sure of. And sometimes animals are obviously ready to go. Sometimes they're kind of ready to go, but you're not quite sure if you want to pair them up. Sometimes they're obviously not ready to go. So I'm going to show you a couple animals and then go over some of those, the thought process behind that decision. But first, I wanted to show you just one of the baby Argentines produced. This is actually not a 2024 baby, but a 2023 baby. And so you can see how big this female is already, probably pushing 4 feet, doing real well. Nice holdback animal. And the 2023 babies are all long sold, but I still have a few 2024 baby Argentine Boas available. And if you go to my Flickr page, the link is below the video description. You can see pictures of them. And all of my baby Boas from 2024 are on sale for 25% off, only through November 20th. So be sure to check them out. If you're looking for a boa, I've got lots of locality boas, morph boas, island boas, dwarf boas, red-tailed boas. You name it, I probably got it. And it's available at 25% off my already low prices through November 20th. So don't miss out on this sale. Before we take a look at the adult female Argentines, thought I'd show you a 2024 baby, just so you can see how big they get in just a year. This one, as you can see, is quite a bit smaller, but that holdback from 2023 I just showed you is at least a foot, probably a foot and a half longer than this one. Argentines are one of the fastest growing locality boas. They grow a lot faster than the true red tails. So if you want a boa that grows on the faster side, you might want to check out the Argentines. They're also one of the larger locality boas, getting up to around 8 to 9 feet for a large adult. So now let's check out some of my adult female Argentines, and I'll go over my thought process around if they're ready to breed or not. So here's our first contestant. This is quite a large female. She's actually still a relatively young adult. She's about 5.5 years old, born in 2019, and she is really quite thick. You can see one of my larger boas. She's probably pushing 8 feet right now. And this is what I would say is a boa in really good flesh for breeding. And she's kind of a handful to hold. Incidentally, one reason I don't show a lot of big boas in my videos is it's kind of hard to wrangle them and keep my thoughts on boas coming out of my mouth at the same time. But I'll give it my best shot here. So, as I mentioned, this boa looks like she's in good shape for breeding. Am I going to breed her? No, I'm not, because she actually already bred in 2024. She's the mother of the little baby we just saw. She had her first litter this past breeding season. I think it was 13 or 14 babies, really nice litter. And when she gave birth to the litter, she had lost some weight, of course, but went into the litter. But she actually ate when she was gravid, so she didn't lose all that much weight. And then she really started chowing down after those babies were born. And she has just, really gotten bigger. I'd say she's probably about a foot longer now than after the babies were born. And quite a bit girthier as well. This is a big boa. And right now she's eating like really massive rats, chowing them down. I was feeding her about every 10 days. Right after she gave birth, wanted to put that weight back on. But she ended up just really going into this growth spurt. And she's actually now one of my largest adult boas. And she's still growing. So I'm not going to breed her. I make it a rule I don't ever breed females 2 years in a row. I always give them a year off. And I think it's really important just to give them that break so they can recover from the birth, gain the weight, and just, you know, they're not going to be making litters every year in the wild. And it's really unhealthy in the long run to breed a boa every year. You're probably looking at a greatly reduced lifespan if you do that. And I really want these boas to, you know, live a long lifespan, you know, the maximum lifespan that they can live. So this girl is not going to be breeding in 2025. I'm also, since she's still growing, you know, I want to see how much she's going to continue to grow. Obviously, if I bred her again, it would probably stunt her growth somewhat. You know, I want to give her this opportunity in 2025 to just continue growing. And then I would imagine she'll be ready to pair up in the fall of 2025, going into the 2026 breeding season. So she's not going to be breeding, although I would say she is in good shape to breed. It's just she bred too soon and I got to give her a year off. But this is basically what you want to look for. You want a boa that looks a little bit actually on the chunky side for females going into the breeding, because they're not going to eat for a while. But in this case, she's not going to eat for about 2 months anyway. I don't feed my boas over the winter, even if they're not going into breeding trials. Just give them that time off to cycle. And you know, some people have speculated that they actually grow more when you stop feeding them. So not going into breeding for 2025, so no babies from her. I do have one more female Argentine, so let's, you know, that's ready potentially for breeding age. So let's take a look at her. I have one more adult female Argentine who is of the right age for breeding, and she's another proven breeder. But looking at her, you'll probably notice she looks quite a bit different than the female I just showed you. She's quite a bit thinner. You can see this female is about the same length, about 8 feet, as the one I just showed you. But look at that body. And so this female is a 9-year-old animal. And the reason I got her for this video is she actually bred for the first time and had a litter in 2023. And that first baby I showed you was one of her offspring. But she's not going into breeding trials this year, even though it's been 2 years. You know, she had the whole year off. And so sometimes it just doesn't work out. And this particular animal, her story, you know, when she was gravid, she stopped eating altogether. So she looked pretty good flesh when she was going into breeding. This was in the fall of 2022 into 2023. She became gravid and just stopped eating. And I always try to feed my animals whenever possible when they're gravid, but she just didn't want to eat. And it was about 5 months she went without eating. And I was quite worried. When the babies were finally born, she was just so thin. And I was really worried. I thought for sure she wasn't going to make it. And I started feeding her aggressively after. She was very hungry, and she finally started feeding aggressively. And I was feeding her every week to 10 days. I was feeding her, you know, large or jumbo rats. And for a while, she was putting the weight on. And the summer and fall of 2023, she started to look a little bit more normal, putting that weight on. She went into, you know, the cooling period for the winter going into 2024. She didn't eat for about a month and a half. And then she resumed eating, although she just didn't have the same appetite she had. And, you know, at that point, she looked like she was okay weight-wise, not, you know, super chunky or anything like that, but, you know, a normal, healthy body weight for a boa. But then she only ate about once a month. For whatever reason, she just stopped being interested in the rats. And it didn't seem like anything was wrong health-wise. You know, sometimes boas just become a little bit finicky. And I realized that a couple of months ago, maybe I'll try quail, because I had, you know, I feed my boas quail every few meals, and she seemed to like them. So maybe she just wants quail, not rats. And so I started feeding her only quail a couple months ago. I've been feeding her a quail, a very large quail, about every week to 10 days. And so she has put on a little bit more weight, but unfortunately it's just not enough. She's just not in the shape to go into breeding trials. So even though it's been a year off, and some at times, they're just still not in the shape to breed. So this particular animal will not be going into breeding trials, and these are my 2 eligible adult female Argentines, and so no Argentines in 2025. But with any luck, I'll have 2 females ready to go into breeding trials in 2026. Both of these Argentine adult females. And sometimes you just have to think about the long-term success of your breeding operation and the long-term health of your females when you're deciding whether to pair them up or not. It's always better not to pair if you have any kind of concerns that they're not in peak condition for breeding like this animal. Anyway, I hope you liked the video. As I had mentioned, I still have baby Argentines, and these are going to be the last Argentines I'm going to have available for another year and a half probably. You can check them out on my Flickr page. They're 25% off until November 20th, so don't miss out. Hope you enjoyed the video. Shoot me any questions or comments you might have. Thanks for watching, and enjoy your boas.